What is up, everybody? So another mental game video for you. I know you guys love these. I'll take this quick moment to say that if you are having a quandary that's in your mental game or otherwise something that you feel like is creating a barrier for you, for your improvement, your process of improvement, please let me know in the comments. And if it's something that I feel like I can have a good answer to, I would love to have the opportunity to do that. And these comments really inspire me. I feel like it's the lifeblood of the channel, that we can kind of share this process, share this journey of getting better as players and people together. So keep it coming. I've been really enjoying it so far. With that said, this video is about reframing. So I'm going to give you a reframing tool. And if this is a new concept to you, in the mental game, as we have covered on some of the previous videos, we are needing our attention and our focus, this resource that we have, a limited amount every day of focus and attention, and that needs to go into our process. And what happens is sometimes negative things will happen in the game. Some things will draw our attention, draw our focus away from where it should be. And if our focus, if this resource isn't sort of maximally tunneled in on one thing, which is the process, then what's going to happen is we're not going to be able to play as well. We're not going to be able to go as fast. We don't have as much fuel to do so. We can't rev the engine as much. So with that said, a reframing tool is really great because it allows us, once we notice the negative thing, to take it and actually redivert that energy back into the process. So it goes away from the process and we kind of redivert it back in. And so it's kind of like just mental jujitsu, essentially. You take the attack and you kind of parry it and kind of divert the energy back. This whole process should empower you to be able to kind of play better and to stay in the right zone for performance. So with that said, I was reading a long time ago of a physical version of this. And essentially the kind of process works something like, you have something that creates that negative thought or takes that energy away from you. And once you notice that, you have come up with essentially a message that's sort of encoded in like an action or like one thing. So I read about a tennis player a long time ago. Don't remember which tennis player, but it's an elite one. Don't remember which book I was reading. This is many years ago. But what he would do is every time he would miss a shot, he would slap himself on the thigh. And what he had done in advance to this in his training is he decided, okay, every time I miss a shot, what that means is I'm getting better as a player, because on my journey in the process of becoming a better player in the long term, I'm going to miss shots, and every shot that I miss, I'm going to make sure that shot is going to kind of count towards this process of getting better. So that means every time I'm missing, it means I'm getting better. So I forget, the eloquent way that was much more eloquent, I'm sure, than what I just said, was that he kind of explained this to himself, this process, but he essentially turned missing a shot into a positive thing as opposed to something that's negative. Because let's not forget, if you have any underlying negative beliefs, if something negative happens, then that can kind of connect to that negative belief. So if you're feeling like you're not on your game today, or if you're feeling like, you've been losing a lot lately and oh no, here it comes again, you're kind of intercepting that and you're saying, oh, negative stimulus, here is the process. So I've slapped myself on the thigh, and every time you kind of go through this repetition, you've taken this attack, this negative energy, and you redirected it back into your process to keep you in the performance zone. So I'm going to share with you guys a word version of this, and you guys can come up with this yourself, because as I mentioned, it really is just you pick something and then you tell yourself what that means when you do that thing, and you can set it up in advance. So here is one from Jocko Willink that I'm sure many of you have heard before, and we'll talk a little bit more about this topic after watching this video. I tried to react to this video and upload it, but actually I got the video blocked. So I've cut it out and you have this screenshot instead. So please check the description to watch the video. It's about 2 minutes long for Jocko Willink's good reframing tool. And then I'll see you on the other side with my reaction and comments and a lot of other things too. Because, I used it personally myself, but it's really beautiful in the simplicity of it. I think some people would say, oh, that's cringe and so on. Well, fuck it, fuck those people. It's not for them. But in reality, this is really just fundamentally, like I mentioned, you take a challenging situation that normally might feel oppressive, and you say, well, that's good. And what's really cool about this is he's taken out this idea of you even thinking about like, oh, how should I think about this? Because it's instantly, well, I just say good. And then you kind of go through the process as to why it's good. And so, he gave many different examples. And I think this is, again, quite powerful, because you can have even this general example in competition where, you know, you're experiencing a difficult game and, well, you know, I mean, maybe you're losing. It's like, well, good. Because if I win, you know, I want to win when it's hard, when it counts. I don't want this to be easy because, you know, my whole process of becoming like a warrior, becoming elite, becoming the best is in overcoming challenge. And if I overcome things, if I have more things to overcome, I'm going to get better. So there's this is like really cool kind of way of just looking at more or less any difficult situation you can be up against in the game, because you're like, every time you're having that negative response of like, oh shit, they're really ahead, our economy is really bad, you know, they got way more frags than me, like whatever it might be in the respective game you're playing. It's like, well, fuck it, good, you know, this is like a real challenge, and that's why I'm here. You know, you have to obviously care about that message. You have to care about that message of wanting things to be difficult, because that's feels the most rewarding. It's not worth it otherwise. You know, you need to kind of really feel that for that to make sense, and that might not make sense for you. So the whole point is really that with these reframing tools, you don't have to take, you know, what Jocko just said to be, you know, your gospel in your reframing tools. But for me, it worked. But that's the thing, is like, you got to find something that works for you. You know, one thing I'll say about all of this though, and this will probably be another video entirely, which is, you know, awareness. You know, awareness is really key, because a lot of players, especially younger players, find it very difficult to understand what they're actually feeling and thinking. And the problem with this is that it requires practice. It's kind of like a muscle. You need to be able to spend time with yourself asking the questions, how do I feel? Like, is it, you can start as simple as, you know, do I feel good, or do I feel bad, or do I feel neutral? And, you know, ask yourself questions about these things. Do I feel tired? Do I, you know, just like to keep it basic. And then over time, you might be able to tease out more and more things. You can kind of think of it like, if for any of you that have had that experience listening to classical music in particular, because there are so many different instruments going on all at once. If you've only just started like listening to it and you've never really listened to it before, it'll probably be very difficult to discern and tease out all the different like instruments and be able to tell what's what. But, you know, and if you can't do that, what it appears to you is it's just like this wave of massive amounts of like messy noise. You can't distinguish any of the things. You can't see the relationship between any of the things, because you haven't developed the sensitivity to do so, which requires, you know, spending time focusing on listening, like really listening. And it's the same thing with you and your mental space and understanding like what's going on in your body. You got to really find a way to listen. And, you know, that is something that builds over time. And for some people, it's much more difficult than others. But it's necessary. And it's the same thing with your thoughts as well, because this is all data. This is an experience you're having. Imagine if you knew absolutely 100% of everything that was going on. Well, there are generally like good practices and tools and approaches for pretty much anything at this point in this modern age. You know, you can figure out how to deal with it. Most people's problem comes from not knowing what their problem is. And if you don't, so therefore, if you need to get the data to understand what your problems are. And when we talk about the A, B, and C game, and I'll do more videos on like breaking down some of these things with some examples that might help you guys if you're having this kind of problem, kind of figure out if like, you know, where like through an example, like, is this you or is this not you? You know, because that's really the toughest thing to figure out, I have to say. It'll take years for most people. So with all of that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this, because I think it's a powerful tool, and especially for teams. One thing you can do, and I must not forget this one point, it's actually an important point. So rolling it back a little bit, going back to this good thing. Another reason why this is important is because what we tend to do when we experience something negative that happens, like I said, you know, the game's really hard, we're losing, you know, we can see that the other team's on like 12 rounds and we have, you know, 6 or whatever, and they're 1 round away from winning. You know what's going on. You know the reality. The reality is you're about to lose. You can either ignore that or you can respond to it. Those are the only 2 options you have. And by ignoring it, I mean, it's still going to be there. It's still going to exist inside of you. And this is, I would say, generally a problem. And for some people, it's more of a problem than others. But especially in team settings, it can be a really big problem, because people can get quite discouraged and demotivated in team settings. And that can kind of bring everybody down, because you can kind of like ping off of it. You ping off of each other and say, oh, this guy's not really in it. This guy's not really in it. I'm having to like overcompensate because, you know, we're not kind of coming up as a team. And it's because some of these things can really get you down. And so by just ignoring things, it's not really enough. And especially in a team environment, it's very powerful to actually confront and address them together. So for example, if like the other team has like let's say, you know, it's Valorant as the example, and they've got loads of ults and like they've got like, you know, and you've got none or something, you guys can say like, okay, like good, this is they've got all these ults, like good, we're going to make them waste the ults. Good, we're going to get that, we're going to find a way now to kind of turn this on its head somehow. Like, you know, just addressing it and saying, even just saying good, even if you don't have the answer, like it can always be good. We want it to be hard. Good, you know, we want it to be difficult, because then it's going to mean something. And this is, I love the challenge. I want the challenge. You know, that kind of thinking is really powerful. And by just stating it to the team, and even if you got people saying it, and you've actually ahead of time talked to your team about what are we going to do when we're in like a really shit spot. Do we have any tools for this? Like, do we know anyone on our team that's kind of shutting down? Do we know any situations where this has been a problem? Well, here's a tool that could help you, could help your team. You can go and watch this together as a team, and you guys can make an agreement and say, okay, whenever like one of us is feeling it, or we're in a shit spot, we have to say good. And if one person says it, we all have to say it. You know, so you can kind of turn it into something that's even more than just for you personally beneficial, but for your entire team, to bring your team up, to rally them around something. So again, it's much more powerful to be able to address something than ignore it. And this reframing tools are one of the best ways to do that. So again, I'm glad I didn't forget that point, because it's kind of important for this video, I would say. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please hit the subscribe button if you found it valuable. I would love to hear your comments too about anything that you have on this topic or any other mental game topics that I can talk about. And you know, I'm really trying to get to that YouTube plaque, 100,000 subscribers as quick as possible on the speed run. And I'm really, really grateful for everybody's responses so far to all of these videos. You guys have been really, really positive, and I'm loving it. And it's really kind of been energizing me and giving me all these cool creative thoughts as to cool other bits of content I can bring to the channel that would be valuable. So, all right, that's enough of that. Thank you so much, guys. Catch you on the next one.